We're so excited to have Jade Putch. Okay. We're not going to cut that out. I was making sure because I've known you for a long time, which they're about to find out. But yes, and I always ask about the name. Anyways, we're so glad to have Jade on the Table podcast today and just hear her story and how God's working in her life. So let's get ready to go. Welcome to the podcast, Jade. I'm so excited that you're able to be with us today and just for everybody to get to hear more about you because I feel like I know you so well and I know just people that know you well are just really blessed by you and your life. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself and kind of where you're at right now. And I guess before you even do that, just getting to know you over the years has been such a blessing to me and kind of just even unexpected because we met in such a, I don't know, such a unique way. And then
such a God way.
Ended up coming to Celebration with your family years later. And just, introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you guys.
Well, first, thank you so much for having me. We've been talking about this for a while, so I'm glad it's finally here. I'm Jade. I am a wife to Nicholas, a mom to Josie. She'll be 2 next week. And I've been married for almost 4 years, I think. And Savannah here crazy. Shot our wedding. She was our photographer, and I just can't believe it's been that long ago. But I've been coming to Celebration for about 2 years now, and it feels
like it's been a lifetime.
I know.
It's been so fun.
And we have just experienced the love of Jesus in so many ways here, and it's just so contagious, and we just keep coming back for more, and we're just so glad to be a part of what God's doing here and all the things.
We love you guys so much, and I've just loved getting y'all are so involved with just different areas, and I guess especially with just us and our family, because you were in a small group with me and some different people whenever y'all first started coming, and then Nick is still in Austin's small group, and our kids are the same age, so it's fun. I love it so much. And tell me a little bit about, and we can just jump right into, because I really love on the podcast for people to be able to just kind of share their story, and that goes in different directions because everybody is unique. Everybody has a different just way that God's worked in their life and gotten to this point, with us sitting here. And so what was, I know y'all came to Celebration, but you kind of grew up in church, right? So tell me just about your story. And I guess start wherever you feel led to start.
Yeah. So I was born and raised Southern Baptist. We didn't miss many Sundays, but it's definitely still a lot different than coming to Celebration and being in a non-denominational church. But just kind of fell out of the church and religion as I got older and things started happening in my life. And I remember being 17 at the time that my brother was first incarcerated, and so it was really hard on my family, of course, and just a lot of big life changes. And so of course I just kind of distanced from God and didn't really turn to him in times of trouble. And so I remember just some particular things happening that were just kind of my rock bottom. And I remember being 17 and I just fell to my knees one night in my bedroom and just asked the Lord to come into my heart and to save me. And he did, but I still wasn't quite at that surrender yet.
Yeah.
And so I think that is when God, first started really working in me. And then along the years, of course, I went through the party phase and college and all the things and just kind of shoved God to the back burner. And it wasn't until I started coming to Celebration years later and had met Nick that we really got involved and just felt like we need to just go all in. And so I think I have my timeline all jacked up, but just bear with me. Nick and I have been coming to Celebration for about a year off and on, and I don't think we were serving yet or anything, but we ran into some trouble in our marriage, and there was just infidelity and just communication was struggling and just a bunch of different struggles there. And that's when we really just had our come to Jesus moment of we've got to get this together because the way we're doing it is not working and we need some true intervention here. And so we just both surrendered our life to Christ, and just the ways that we've seen him just mold our family back together, and it's indescribable that it could be anything else. It's just so obvious this is only God's hand in our life. And since then, and that's been almost 2 years ago now, I think, God has just taken full control, and we've just been surrendering that to him and trusting that his plan for our life is going to be greater than what we could do, and it has been. So we're just so thankful.
It's so beautiful. And I love how you I didn't know that part of your story from when you were 17. I think that's so sweet. And I think too it's just such a neat reminder that I feel like is just encouraging. It's really encouraging to me, and I know it has to be encouraging to just people that you've been able to share that with, because that was a moment that you gave your life to the Lord, that you asked him to come into your heart and to save you and had that moment, but he started something. But even if you were off track, like he's brought you back to that now. And just how amazing that is. And that there's, even for people that we kind of aren't sure where they're at, or if they're, people that were even close to our family and wondering where they're at, that if God started something in them, like he's going to bring that too.
And I think it's a good reminder for myself too of like when I get frustrated with people in my life that aren't immediately coming to Jesus. Like, oh, they've been to church.
The best.
Like why
you should want to know
him. Right. But then I'm reminded, like, look how long it took for me, like he's going to bring them around. It just takes time.
He's so patient with all of us.
Exactly.
Like, to get to the point now where like you guys are at, but even just with all of us that are like in I guess you would call it a good spot or whatever you want to call that. There's so many things that he's just refining and changing in our life that he's patient with us in. And it's so sweet.
Always.
Tell me a little bit about kind of, you said there was like a season of y'all's life that led y'all to this moment. I guess just talk a little bit more about that, however you feel comfortable, but just, what that was like. And kind of, I think if there's moments like that in our life where I think for everybody that there is, when they kind of have a decision of if they're going to go further with the Lord or they're going to go with the way that the world says to handle things. And so, whether it was specifically the kind of things that y'all were working through, that you were working through, or even other things like that, what was that like, kind of facing that decision of, are we going to go God's way, or am I going to respond to these just life? I mean, it's life. Like, we're all sinners. We all aren't. It's all possible for us to make mistakes, to do things that hurt ourselves, hurt other people, and we do. And so, just I guess go into it without me going, even further. Like, what was that like, making that decision?
So when the rough patch in our marriage hit and there was infidelity, it was we were just at a point in our like faith that we were still really lukewarm. Like, we were okay with still doing things like the world, but we were like, oh, we're going to be at church on Sunday type of deal. I think we were slowly like getting into small groups at that point. I don't remember. I know I was. I don't think that he had yet joined a group. But so like we had that foundation of God, but we weren't like centered on it.
Yeah.
And so we took a separation period, and just for like a month maybe, and he was living with his Nana at the time, and I was at home with Josie. And I remember being like so shut off from the Lord. Like, I had just shut everyone off. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, why did this happen? And like all the things you would think about, like when your family feels like it's falling apart, And like, I wasn't even praying for weeks. Like, I was just like, I just want to disassociate, or however that word. I don't
disassociate, something like that.
I'm bad at words.
I'm surprised I could get it out.
You know what I meant. And so I just wanted to do that. And finally, like, I remember so vividly, like, I was just sitting on my couch one night, and Josie had gone to bed, and like, I just couldn't like form the words to pray. And I'm sorry if I get emotional.
No.
Because words are hard, but I've always loved to write. And so I had a prayer journal that I went out and bought like that same week. And I took it home, and that's like when I opened back up to the Lord to start praying. And sorry, you may have to cut this down.
I'm crying too.
Anyway, so I cracked open my journal, and I just wrote out like all those feelings, like, because you just can't always like come up with the words to say to God, because you're just angry or you're just hurt. And I still have that journal. I still look back on it. But after I did that and I prayed, I just felt like an immediate peace over it. Like, this is what I need to do. Like, I need to work on my marriage. And so I invited Nick back. And then from that moment on, we've just been like, we're going to give God our all. This is what we're doing. And I read to him the prayers that I had like been writing that whole period of time. And I really just feel like I got to speak that life back over him. And just the journal, the whole thing, it just makes me so emotional, because like,
understandably,
that's like a year later I went back and read it all, and I was just so thankful to God just for like the work that he's done. And like, I just hope, and God forbid something like that ever happened to Josie, but I just pray like one day that what I went through can just be like a living, breathing testimony to her, and maybe pass something on to her like that. But God just, he meets us like right where we are. And even if we don't have like the perfect prayer, like he knows our heart, and he's going to help you to communicate that with him. But that's just our little story there. And
that's so,
God is just so good.
So moving. And I think my favorite part about everything that you said, because it's just, I personally can't imagine being in that spot.
Yeah.
And I love how, you're honest about the fact that you didn't pray for a while, because I think that that's just honesty. Like, it's not, even though we say like pray first and like prayer is the first resort, like it is and it should be. But in all actuality, like, it's not easy to pray when life has things happen like that. And it's not just close to home, like it is your home. It is what you're dealing with, and it changes everything about your life. And I think, though, too, it's hard to like find the words. And I love that you talk about how you started writing it, because I think we can struggle, and different people communicate with God specifically different ways. But I think that's probably really an encouragement to somebody that is listening, that it doesn't have to be like even words out of your mouth.
Exactly.
Even if that's your thing, great. But if not, he hears it all different types of ways.
Yes,
and
he does.
Writing it down and
and also just having just prayer warriors on your side. Like, it doesn't even have to be our own prayers. I think it's great to also pray for your own problems, but we had so many people in our corner, like just family that knew that was going on. And like, I think that's what's so beautiful about community, is just having people that are going to hold you up and just intercede for you when you can't do it yourself. And God hears those prayers, and he obviously applied them back to me and like gave me the strength to be able to meet him again. And so just encourage anyone listening, like, find a group, find a corner. And
and really too, it's like finding those people, but it's also being willing, like you were, to be open and have the humility to do that, because I think that's also hard, is like, oh no, I don't want people to know, and for people to be able to pray, like they a lot of times need to know. And so I think even y'all's willingness, your willingness to do that, just says so much about what God had already been doing in your life. And that's so sweet. I love it so much. And it's weird to say you love that kind of thing.
I know.
But
I've told my small group a lot, like, I wouldn't change any of it, because it's brought me to where I am.
It's so powerful.
My family to where we are, and now we're raising Josie in church. And so God has a plan for everything, and it's beautiful in the end, even if it feels real messy in the midst.
What is the season of life now like for you guys? Because it's been a couple years, and it's been a journey, and even getting to today, and God has us all on a journey. But like, what does right now look like for you guys?
So right now, like, we definitely still have our hard days. The enemy's always going to creep back in, and struggle is just always going to be there. But it's different now, because when we're facing struggles, or communication feels hard, or there's tension, we know where to take it, and like, we have somewhere to lean into, versus before we were just looking to the world. And then when you look to the world, it's not going to help. Like, you're trying to fix your sin with what caught, like, you're looking to the world to fix like all the
problems that it created
for
the
world. And so it's just like this deadly cycle. And but now that we have the Lord in our lives, and like, he's the center of it, like, he's where we take our problems. We go to him in prayer. Like, I'm constantly praying for Nick to be like protected from temptation, or like just to give him like just a calmness, like to where we can communicate well. And so I'm sure he does the same for me, And so just having God in the center of our lives is such a difference, and it just changes everything.
I love it. It's so good. And God is so good. And just so, I think too, like, walking through that kind of thing, and like you said, like, there's still hard days, like life is still life, but you've seen how God is faithful, and you've seen like how you now have something that you're looking back to, of like, even in the hard days or whatever comes, we know that like God met us then, and that he's going to keep meeting us. And so
it's such a hope that he gives, like, that we're not going to break, He can do anything. He can change anything around. So
one of the things, and I'm kind of gathering my words here, because I don't know, this is just a real honest conversation, but one of the things that I think it kind of speaks to what you were saying a few minutes ago, but one of the things that I just adore about you and love about you, and I think if it just anybody that I would say, like, what do you love about Jade? Like, they'd probably say this too. It's just how authentic you are, and you're just real, and not like you're trying to be at all kind of way, but you're just yourself, and you're just open and, honest about things. And how do you, I guess, I don't really know what my question is, except for just saying that I really love that about you. And I think that it has a lot to do with your identity and who you are and how you even see yourself. And like, how has that changed? Because like, I know that's the person you are right now. And I think in some ways that's personality, of course, but also without putting my finger on it, I can kind of see how it's even evolved in like what God's been doing in you. And so, how does your identity and just where you find your worth, your fulfillment, how has that changed over the last 2 or 3 years or so?
It's funny you say all this because I've had people come up to me and they're like, you're not the same. Like, not that I don't have the same personality, but like I've just blossomed in like a boldness in Christ, you know?
Yeah.
And so like when I was in your small group, I didn't say much. I would just show up and just kind of like motion of the ocean kind of thing. And now I'm like leading groups and I love it so much. And I think that's just such a work of God. And he's just given me like this new boldness to share like what I've been through. And like you don't have to bottle it up because it's going to help somebody along the way. And just seeing that time over time in my life, especially since the incident with me and Nick, like just ways that he's worked. Like I've encountered people that have struggled through the same thing and not even have tried to. Like we'll just be in the randomest place at the randomest time. And it's like, oh crap, that happened to you too. And like he will use that testimony. And like in my mom's group, I have a little stroller group. And
it's not a little stroller group. It is
it's
a very big
stroller
It's a
pretty
group.
big stroller group.
So if you're a mom and you're listening, you should join the stroller group on
Fridays
Facebook.
at 10 a.m.
Yes.
But there's so many moms in that group that are struggling with so many of the same things, and small groups, people struggling with the same things.
Yeah.
And so I think like God's going to equip you, like if you allow him to use your testimony and turn it around for good, like he's going to, like you're going to be able to plant seeds in people's lives and he's going to harvest those.
He takes care of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like,
I think it's in, I don't remember which book of the Bible it's in, but I know it's in the New Testament, and it's the thing where like so-and-so plants, or Apollos plants the seed, so-and-so waters it, and then God makes it grow.
Exactly.
Like only God makes it grow.
Exactly.
And we just plant and water, and that's what we do.
And people will ask me, especially like women that have struggled in infidelity, I mean, they'll say like, how did you bounce back from that? It's only Jesus, you know? Like the world can't do it ever. And so, yeah, I don't know where that came from, but something about authenticity.
Yeah. No, I think it's, I think it's authentic to be able to say that and, not just like spiritualize it and say, oh, because of the Lord, like, but just say like, I couldn't have done it without him, literally. Yeah. And I've walked through that. And that speaks volumes to people, even going back to just being even willing to be open about it, because our culture, like I think we like authenticity, but still everybody's afraid to be authentic. At least for me, I know that I personally, I want to be that a super authentic person, but it's still just so much easier to kind of keep things like to myself of, I don't really know if I want to say that or do that or whatever it is. And so, and obviously there's a certain degree where it's good to have a filter or whatever the thing is. So it's not like,
I should probably be a little less authentic.
No, I think that you have just the right amount of all the things we've been talking about. But,
well, there were definitely lots of people in my life before that happened that, like, I guess set me up. Like, had I not heard their stories or testimonies, maybe I wouldn't have saved my marriage, or like God saved my marriage. But
he worked through their testimony, though. And I think that's such an important thing, too, of like sharing your story.
Yes, it's so important.
And not keeping it under, what's the word, just hidden.
That would be heavy.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold that in.
Yeah.
Nick's probably watching this like, dang it, Jade, you're really putting us on blast here.
No, y'all's life is just such a testimony of God and what he said in y'all's life, and it's so sweet. What was, you became a mom, so you have Josie. She's almost 2, right?
Almost 2, yeah.
So sweet. I love her so much.
Oh,
she's just got the cutest little red hair. She's running around, and such a little church kid. She's just so fun. How did having Josie, like, how has that impacted you and the person that you are now? And in good ways, and something about motherhood that, at least like I've personally found, I think other people I talk to, is it reveals so much about ourselves to us. It's like looking in a close mirror all the time at like all of our imperfections in a way that's kind of, I mean, if I'm being honest, like overwhelming without like God's grace, because it's just, so how's that impacted you? Not to make it like go in a heavy negative direction, but if I'm being real,
I could talk about this. I mean, I wonder how people are mothers without knowing God, like how they do it. I don't know. My candle would have been burnt out. Yeah. But honestly, since having Josie, I feel like I've just gained a whole new identity, because I think like so much of my ministry is with her. Yeah. And it really makes me think, like you said, about every like inch of my life. I'm like, everything I do has an impact on her. And so I want to be like Christ because I want her to be like Christ. Yeah. And like, I don't know, I feel like it's given us more peace in our marriage and our home, of just being like, are we creating the right environment? Are we around the right people? Are we allowing good things into our home? And so I have just done a 180, like, since having Josie, because, like, I care so much for her, and I don't, like, she's obviously a blessing from the Lord, and so I want to use that and, like, glorify Him through her. And, like, people will ask me, like, why don't you do this anymore? I'm like, I'm a mother. Like, I have Jesus in my heart, you know? Yeah. And so I truly think, like, He gave me Josie to redirect me to Him, and I'm just so thankful for that.
That's so precious. And I think it, like you said, just looking at every inch of your life and, I don't know, really thinking about, because it sounds like simple to say out loud, like, well, I want my child to be like Jesus. I want them to be kind and to do things like Jesus and live that kind of life. But, you know, not excuse ourselves, but kind of like, oh, I've already messed up, or I've already, you know, not view ourselves as a clean slate. So let me just try to, like, save them from the mistakes that I made or whatever, but really reevaluating that, like, basically it's never too late. Like, we are a clean slate in Christ. And so I don't know, what are your thoughts on that? Or like, I don't know, just what kind of thoughts are spinning?
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I think, like, when she grows up to be a teenager and, like, is she going to do some of the things I did? Like, that would crush my heart. Like, please don't do the things that I did. Because she's going to be curious about, like, what my childhood was like, or, you know? And so all I can think is that, like, my old identity doesn't matter before Christ, but, like, who I am now and, like, where I'm placing Him in my life now is what matters, and, like, what she's gonna take from the most. Yeah. But I also still want to be honest with her about, like, you know, where I've come from and, like, how the Lord has molded me. I don't plan to, like, hide any of that, because, like you said, I'm authentic. I'm like, you want it? We'll tell it.
Well, and it's powerful for her to be able to see, because she's gonna grow up in the same world that we've been growing up in, probably. It kind of keeps getting worse, sadly. And so, so I think she's gonna, like, I think for her to see that, but then see just how your life is surrendered to Jesus will be the biggest thing to her. And
because if I can do it, anybody can do it. There's been some things, and it's not to say, like, I want to protect her. Well, I do want to protect her from those things, but I don't want to, like, keep her from doing those things. Not like, but I want her to, like, learn from my mistakes of, like, seeing like where I've come. I don't know how to explain that, but, like, I just hope that she'll take more from hearing my testimony than, like, me telling her, oh, don't do that, you know, like, that's wrong. But, like, let's talk about, like, where it got me and, like why? What those consequences were. And so,
No, I think that it's such a good approach and everything. What's your favorite thing in life right now? Like, what's just, you know, besides Josie and besides Nick and
I could go on
and all the things.
I think just stepping into ministry has just been a really huge part of my life right now, and I'm just so excited for it. I just felt such a calling on my life to go in this direction. I don't really know what
tell
it
us
looks
about
like,
that if you feel like you want to, of just kind of how that started, because you are a photographer and you're an amazing photographer and have been for what, 3 or 4 years, 4 or 5 years,
6 years,
6 years. Wow. And you know, I've been doing that and do such a great job, and just I know just have a lot of life in doing that. But like, what has it been like, kind of sensing that kind of change? Because I think, you know, there's all different kinds of ages and people that will listen to the podcast, but all of us have, like, transitions in life, whether it's when we're young or in just different seasons of our life that we kind of feel like God is moving us to, even if we're still doing some of the same things, because you still love photography. Like, that's still a love for you, but we kind of feel like there's something new starting. So what was that kind of like?
Yeah. So probably like a year ago, even maybe a little over a year ago, I was like, photography is all I'll ever do. This is perfect. This is great with my mom's schedule. And it is. Like, I still have such a passion for photography. But last year at the women's conference, this was like my first calling to ministry. I just was sitting. I remember where I was sitting, and I just felt the Holy Spirit come over me, and, like, I couldn't think of anything else. And He just told me, like, this is what you need to be doing. Like, I was watching this speaker on stage, and she was just telling about Jesus, and I was like, man, okay, God, like, if this is what I'm supposed to be doing, I mean, you're telling me right now. And so I just took that and ran with it. And then I was, like, looking into Bible college, and I didn't really, like, know what direction I was going in with that. And then I met with Savannah, like, not long after that. I don't remember how soon, but it was very soon. And we just, like, started sharing a little bit about that. And I told her about, like, my experience with just my calling to ministry. And she was like, well, I think we have this perfect opportunity here at the church. And so they brought me on staff. And that's not to say I I don't think I'll quit photography anytime soon. Like, I think I'll still do it, but there's a difference in like the fulfillment that it gives me. So photography, it does give me like a joy, right?
Something
But
God
it
created
only
you to do. You're creative and you're so good at it.
But that only carries so far. But like, I think my soul is just like thirsty for more, and you can only get that from like a surrender to God. And like, ultimately my calling and my duty in life is to spread the name of Jesus and help bring people to salvation. So I don't know how to explain that. I just think it's different. Like, the joy is different. It's like a joy that maxes out. I don't know. Photography is like, you get here and then you're like, well, what next? You know, but with Jesus, it's just this constant.
It's really
fueling.
true what you said too. And I don't want to like interrupt, but it's like what you said of the different joy, but then it's doing what Jesus has called you to do. And some people might get that same thing from photography, like but beyond just loving it, like they truly feel like this is whatever like way that they're doing it, an arena that they're doing it in, like they know, you know, this is what God like has for me to do right now. I'm fully in that and fulfilled by that. And I think even just being open to that is so, I don't know, it's so important, and important that you were open to that and open to it being different than what you had thought.
Well, God doesn't call us to be comfortable. So I think that's such a big part about our growth spiritually, is just like being able to just be obedient when he calls you to something. And because like you can sit and just like stir on it, like, is that actually from the Lord? But it's just like taking the jump and being like, okay, I'm gonna have faith in this and just trust, like, you put this on my heart for a reason. And I think that it's okay. This has also been on my heart, just of like, can you have peace and fear at the same time? And I think that, especially like with stepping into different roles at the church, like, I'm peaceful because I know it's my calling, but I'm also like fearful of like the time I lose with Josie, and like, am I going to be able to balance? But I think like it's still a healthy fear of just being like
100%.
You know, and I read a lot about it and I studied up on it, but I don't really have a lot to share right now about that. But
I love this whole train of thought, and I know we only have 2 minutes left, but it's so, I think I was actually jotting in my notes last night something about, that's so wild that you just brought that up, because peace is not, like you said, we have peace and fear at the same time. And I think so many times we can like avoid what we are maybe even called to do, meant to do, out of fear, which it's like, okay, that's not a mic drop. Like, fear. Everybody knows that fear keeps us from doing things. But like, it's good to have the right kind of fear. Like, we shouldn't go stand in the middle of the road or whatever the fears are, and have a healthy fear that keeps us just aware. And, you know, I don't know, whatever those things around a healthy fear is, but peace is not an emotion or a feeling. And digging into it in the Word, because I was thinking about this kind of thing last night, not this specific, but peace specifically. Peace is being unified with God. It's not like how we feel. It's like, and it is how we feel because that's what we associate it with. But true, real peace, like there's the verse in that where Jesus says, like, I didn't come to bring peace to the world. I came to bring like peace, like between you and God, basically. And so. And I think it's just whenever we are thinking that like we're going to be at peace with like our surroundings or other things, like peace is being reunited with God, and that's peaceful, but that doesn't mean that we don't have fear about other things. And sometimes, anyways, I think
it just comes back to like, what are you grounding your life on? Are you grounding it on the peace like that God gives and like his calling for your life, or are you grounding it on your fear? You know, I think that's when it becomes an issue, is like when you're letting the fear control your decisions and like keep you from doing what God has for you. So just finding that good balance is, you know.
Yeah. And a big part of that too, I think, is what you said, that you said it so quickly, but like I would love to just go back to it for a second, is you remembered, you know, what is my ultimate calling? Like, not am I a photographer or what am I going to do whenever Josie graduates one day? Like, what's my purpose going to be? Or, you know, what if, you know, for some reason, like, just something bad happened or my life completely changed or whatever the thing is. You know, our callings aren't those things, but our calling is to spread the good news of Christ, to be an ambassador for Christ, to an ambassador, such a like churchy word or whatever, but like to just spread the good news, to glorify God. And so remembering that, and that kind of goes back to that whole peace thing, because if that is your center, if living with that mission in mind, which is so much easier said than done for all of us, you know, you have that peace because you're living in that union with God.
Yeah. Thank God for it.
No, he's just so good to like remind us of those things.
He is. Yeah.
But yeah, But I love that. And you also do a podcast.
Yes.
I'm just kind of throwing that in there.
Yes. You can find me on Spotify.
Yes, and it's so good and so just encouraging and challenging. Like I always, I don't know, I love listening to it, and I listen to it on Fridays. It's like my day that I'll find it and listen to it.
I love it. Well, I think I'm going to drop the peace over fear episode soon, so you'll have to listen to it.
No, there's still truth in that. That's the thing about, just the Lord and his word too, that there's things that like seem like they don't make sense, and you're like, that's true, but this is also true. What is this? And it's just because there's so much, like we can only understand so much. So like we should have peace over fear, but it doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't delete the episode. I thought it was a good episode.
Thanks. You hear so much about, and it's not that it's not true.
Yeah.
Of, oh, well, if this was from God, you would just feel a peace about it. And that's true. Like, God does give you peace. But people say it like that's all you should feel. Mm-hmm. And so here I am confused when I'm, like, making a decision. I'm like, I think I'm at peace, but, like, I'm also a little nervous, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, well, because I'm nervous, this must not be from God, you know? Yeah. But really just being able to acknowledge, like,
that's
you
faith.
can be a little fearful.
Yeah.
But where are you really leaning into? Like, what is controlling that decision? So
what are we putting our faith in? Because, you know, that's what requires our faith is whenever we are still feeling that, like, I don't know if I did this, if this was just up to me.
Yeah. We don't know what we're looking at, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So good. I love all of it.
God is so good. And
yes, he is.
I love this season of life, and I'm so thankful for you and just thankful that we're able to do life together in different ways. It's so much fun. And I'm excited too, because besides your podcast that you do, you and Mariah Daniel are starting a mom's podcast.
Yes, I'm so excited. I think we're going to go with the Mother Load. I think that's going to be the name of it, which is so cute. Mariah came up with that.
Yeah.
There's not, like, we haven't really put together a whole lot yet. Like, I know we're still working on the branding, but we have a little space for it. And I think we're going to launch it sometime around Mother's Day.
Yes.
So that'll be exciting. And I think we're just going to talk about all things mom life, like struggles, the highs, the lows.
Yeah.
And really just be able to, like, hope to reach an audience that can relate and that may need to hear from two moms that are out here floating around doing the thing. So
I'm so excited, and it's going to be a celebration podcast. So not that it matters either way, but
it
does
matter.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful that y'all are doing that, and I think it's going to be. I know I'm excited to listen to it just personally, and I think it's going to really just touch a lot of people. And there's something about, like, I love podcasts personally, and I listen to different ones, and sometimes I'll listen to them, every single time an episode drops, or I'll just look for a certain topic maybe that I'm interested in that they post about. But what I'm most excited for with y'all's is that, like, I know y'all, and so it's fun to listen to podcasts, and you don't always have to know the people to really get a lot from it, but just knowing y'all's lives and just the kind of people that you are, but really just how your lives are submitted to the Lord and the way that you're walking with him. Like, I'm excited to be able to hear y'all's heart, because I know that it's like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear from Mariah on it, because she's a lot more experienced in motherhood than me. And so I think I'm going to learn a lot from her and just be able to bounce off from each other. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yay. I love it. Well, thank you so much for doing this with me today and just sharing a little bit about y'all's story and really just what the Lord's done in y'all's life, because he's done amazing things, but y'all have also responded to that and just taken those steps and done y'all's part in that, which is just making the choice and, seeing what he's, doing and how you're going to respond to that. And so thank you for just your life and the way that you live it to honor the Lord. And I know you're not perfect, and I know none of us are perfect, but just the way that you're walking is such a blessing to a lot of people. And so.
Well, thank you, Savannah.
Do you have any last words of encouragement or words of anything to share with everybody before we wrap up?
No, I just want to say God is so good, and he can do it. Whatever you're struggling with, he can turn it around and make it something beautiful. So,
yay. Thanks.
All right.